Fight Horizon, episode 18 with Chris Baylor, our first ever Origin podcast. If you're interested in the podcast, where it came from, how it started to come to rise, listen to this one. I appreciate it, guys, for listening, all the support. Also, like us on Facebook, share us on Instagram. We're on Twitter. We are on Google Play. You name it, we're out there. Just Google us. Thank you very much. Check out the new fighthorizon.com and have a wonderful day.
So we should be pretty close, but we'll do a clap.
All right, Fight Horizon episode 18. Today we're going to do an Origin podcast with Mr. Chris Baylor here. Say hi, Chris.
How's it going, Dan, and everybody out there?
Chris is going to be asking me a few questions about Fight Horizon, how it was generated, and to be honest with you, I really don't know what he's going to ask me, so it's going to be a great podcast. I like it.
Yeah, well, the point of this, I started here at Neutral Ground with you about 6 months ago, and pretty quickly you told me you had a podcast, and so I started listening to it, and what I've noticed is you've got a lot of stories throughout a lot of the podcasts, especially the early ones, that might be interesting to people in one podcast. So if you were introducing someone to your show, you could say, go check out this episode. This is kind of the history of why I started this podcast, my background, well, your background, not mine, obviously, but you can point to like why you are hosting this podcast and talking to people from all over the area. So the first question I've got for you, though, is why do you hate people who are over 30?
We started that, episode, man, I'm gonna slaughter it. And for all the Fight Horizon fans, I apologize, but it was probably episode 6, maybe. We started talking about PEDs, and everyone I had over there was over 30 on that podcast, and I have a hard view on things. I have a hard way of looking at things, and I hate going through hard times, but I understand how hard times are what makes you change and become the person you are today. So we got into the topic of how testosterone and other, I wouldn't say illegal, but banned substances can very much help you in your performance. Let's just say, I haven't hit 30 yet, but everyone over 30 knows the struggle of, aging and having testosterone almost come out of your body itself. So I'm telling them in this podcast that, when I hit 30, I'm just going to go through it. I'm going to adapt. I'm overcome. I'm not going to cheat. If I couldn't do it at 20, I'm not going to do it at 30. I don't hate everyone over 30. Let's say that. A lot of my friends are over 30. And, if I don't give them crap, then, something's wrong. So
Being somebody who's over 30, it's fun to deal with.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I'm taking glucosamine for my knees already. I'm only 27.
So that was just actually kind of a joke question.
Cool.
But, because I like to give you crap about that after I heard that one.
It wouldn't be a podcast unless we started off with something like that.
So, what does it mean to you? We're going to start kind of today, but then go backwards a little bit. So what does it mean to you to be a brown belt?
Wow. Yeah, you started off with a great question, man. Something that comes to mind right away is a saying that goes around the jiu-jitsu community, online, on the mat, in different gyms is, a black belt is a white belt that never stopped. Being a brown belt means you've put in that time, means you've rolled, means you've had a lot of different situations on the mat, on and off the mat. Being a brown belt is the accumulation of all my grappling up until now. And I'm really proud of myself. I don't respect brown belts more that have become a brown belt. I've always respected brown belts. I've always respected higher ranking belts. I understand it a little bit better, if that makes sense. I understand what it takes to become a brown belt, what is expected of you. It means to me almost the accumulation of all those days of trying to get better.
Well, so you've put a lot of time into it, into jiu-jitsu itself. I mean, but what got you started on your Brazilian jiu-jitsu journey?
Yeah. What got me started there, I used to wrestle, and my actual JV wrestling coach, Matt Fujinaka, got me into this. I remember going to a few no-gi classes, non-traditional classes. Didn't even understand how to use a gi or what a gi was at that point.
And were those in Milwaukee or were those?
That was in Grafton here.
So
Yeah.
was that neutral ground at that point, or what?
It was called Riptide back then. It was almost like the beginning branch off of Neutral Ground. Yeah, it started at a class at a local gym here.
Okay.
So, I met Perry, I met Luke Summerfield and Perry Worth. Perry and Luke ran Neutral Ground after that, but it was kind of a next step off of wrestling, and being able to choke or to put somebody in an arm bar or something like that coming off of wrestling was great. It was it felt like doing something illegal. In wrestling you can't do that, right? You can't cause pain intentionally. In jiu-jitsu, it's your main focus. So, it was great. It was like the dark side, It was footlocking before footlocking got cool.
So what got you into grappling then in general? I mean, being a wrestler, what, did you have like an older brother that did wrestling? What got you into that as a sport?
Yeah. My actually, you hit right on it. My older brother did start wrestling his junior year. So he only did 2 years, and at that time I was in 8th grade. So my older brother did it, and I look up to him. And I started in 8th grade and then went all the way through high school, and that's where I actually met my JV wrestling coach who got me into it.
Perfect. So how many years now has that been? It's about 10 years then for you doing jiu-jitsu?
Coming up in June, I believe it will be 10 years, yeah.
And what do you think people, I mean, now that you've been doing this and have progressed to where you are now, what's the advantage for anybody to come do jiu-jitsu?
It's a good question. One of the things I value in jiu-jitsu more than anything else is the ability for jiu-jitsu to clear my mind, to keep me on an even keel, to help me stay focused. And I mean that by you'll come in first class, first month, first year even, and you won't see much progress. Jiu-jitsu's not like a lot of stuff outside these doors or, anything you've really ran into. You see progress in other sports, in other areas of your life, but here you almost feel it, right? And the point where you start feeling is where you start getting a little bit better and where you start realizing the benefits before, you can even see them. So, yeah.
We have our assistant producer is coming here with the.
Christian Baylor, sir. How are you doing?
Good.
You want to say hi to everybody out there? No? The minion game is on the green iPad.
Yeah, but I looked. It's not.
Bring it over here. I got one more question for Dan. Sorry about that.
He's a good kid.
So, back to Kenny, your beginnings. You've got an interesting story of you were a white belt for. I've only been a white belt for 6 months, but you were a white belt for a little extended period of time. Go through that a little bit.
Yeah. So when I started, it was right after high school, right after wrestling. So it gives me a time period that is a little bit rough.
Sorry,
No worries. See you later. Sorry. No, it was yeah. So it was right after high school, and basically, I was away from the root of jujitsu, right? So what that means is, I moved to college, didn't have a direct line to where I started. So I moved to college, created my own club as a white belt, not knowing what I'm teaching, not knowing what I'm gonna do, right? So in that extent, I had to almost teach myself, or go through the situations of struggle that a white belt runs into relatively without support. Same JV wrestling coach I mentioned before would visit, right? That's where I learned most of my stuff. There's always those those experiences where I would watch a YouTube video and goes, oh, that's gonna work. You know, it's not always like that.
Was there any? There was no jiu-jitsu in. It was Mankato, right?
Yeah, Mankato. Yeah, and there was another club, but it was probably about 4 or 5 guys that would roll together.
Okay.
We eventually, I started the same club, and 2 clubs going at the same time, but we eventually merged basically into one. I rolled with them, they rolled with my class. It was a hand-in-hand situation type of thing.
Would you take that experience back though? I mean, that's a pretty unique experience, I think, for anybody who's in jiu-jitsu.
No, never. No, at the time I would say I would. Yeah, kind of what I mentioned before about hard times and going through them. No one likes them when you go through hard times. That was a hard time. That was a hard time to stick with jujitsu, to go every day, show up to classes people may not even come to. You might not have anybody in attendance. You might have 5 to 10 in the next day. But it was a good experience. I built my basics. I built my foundation. I built my game off those 3.5 years I was a white belt.
And what was? I mean, were you in communication with I mean, you said Fuji came up there once in a while,
Yeah.
but were you calling Perry or John or anybody down here too, being what the heck do I what did when obviously if Fuji's there, obviously you can ask somebody who's there and knows their stuff, but when you're there kind of by yourself or with 10 guys and you're like, holy crap, all of us are sitting here going, what do we do now?
Right.
What did you do at that point?
Yeah, honestly, I just hit up seminars. John, I didn't know Perry or John or Luke very well at that time.
Okay.
But what I did create is a good group of partners back then, and we kind of had a nice core circle. And this kind of goes off a lot of the foundation of what I have a mentality for jiu-jitsu now. Is even back then, looking on YouTube and finding techniques that you think might work was kind of frowned upon. So
Depending on who you talk to, it still is.
what's that?
Depending on who you talk to, it still is.
Oh, I saw it on YouTube. It's gotta work. It's gotta work. No, it was finding a good core group of partners, and then learning off the struggles that you had. So I hit a wall with always staying in half guard or kind of playing that half guard hybrid side control type of thing, and that was rough to get over. But I had 4 or 5 partners that would regularly show up to practice that would allow me to build off and learn from that what I really wanted to do. Later on, those were techniques and things that you could see at seminars or see on videos that other black belts would sell. I look at jiu-jitsu as a natural progression of a person. And if you're running into a struggle, somebody else is in jiu-jitsu. And if you learn how to get out of it or how to progress out of it, somebody else is. So you can teach yourself by just pounding through that struggle.
So what brought you back here? And a follow-up question to that is, what did Riptide / Neutral Ground look like once you came back?
So what brought me back here was, basically just the end of college, the end of that era. After college, I moved back with my parents. My parents live in Grafton. What Neutral Ground, Riptide progressed into getting its own place. From getting its own place, coming from Mankato back to Grafton every once in a while and rolling every other summer. It started from you would bring your own lamp so that you could light up the matted area that was in the place. That's all there was. There was brick wall, there was cement floors, and then there was mats, and then there was your lamp that you brought because it would light up the mat. That's about it. To a place that had new mats, to new punching bags, to a rack system, to kettlebells, to as many classes as you'd want to attend. It grew quickly, like everyone knows in either the MMA community or the jiu-jitsu community. It grew really fast in 5 years, in 10 years, and it just kind of caught like wildfire from there. And it was great, You started meeting a lot of people in jiu-jitsu and started growing friendships off of that, yeah.
And so now you've taken one real fight, right? Two?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was only one.
Yeah.
What's it like taking that, all of your experience in jiu-jitsu and some of the MMA stuff and taking that into an actual cage?
Yeah, that's rough. So you have to adapt. You have to think of the same mentality that I'm trying to keep myself safe while progressing forward into a better position to allow myself to stop the fight. Now, whether that be in submissions or ground and pound, right? But through all that progression, you got to understand that you cannot let yourself get hit, and you're going to. You're a new guy in a relatively new sport. It's MMA versus jiu-jitsu. It's a different type of animal. It's almost like jiu-jitsu versus judo. There's differences, and you're gonna run into them, and you're gonna progress through them, but you don't lose your jiu-jitsu mentality. You gotta progress. You gotta capitalize while you're on top, and if you're on the bottom, you need to progress forward so that you're not on the bottom position anymore. Yeah, it's crazy though. I mean, getting hit it'll change your mind on a couple positions real quick.
So with all of that experience, what brought you to wanting to do a podcast?
Oh man, you kind of touched on it before. What I met or who I ran into in jiu-jitsu, it's another side story. It opened my mind. It opened my eyes to a lot of different things. When this sport started to grow, it wasn't just it wasn't just a combat sport anymore. It was a community that was built. It was friendships that were made. It was relationships that were made. Or in a lot of situations, relationships that were maintained, right? So what I kept running into, no matter where I trained, Milwaukee, Grafton, up in Mankato, Stevens Point, anywhere, you built relationships and friendships that would not only, kind of change your mentality or your eyes to jiu-jitsu, but you would meet different types of people. You'd meet doctors. You'd meet construction workers. You would meet people that used to be anchors, and people that were very heavy into MMA. It's all different sides of the spectrum, I would say. That was very cool. So, after practice, it would get into different conversations, you get different views. And it started off with girls and booze, just like everything else, right? Which was cool, which was, good locker room talk, but then, you got into different questions, and you get different people saying different things, and you get really good debates. But because everyone trusts each other, because everyone tried to kill each other earlier in that day, you're not going to be angry at the guy. You're like, oh, okay, well, agree to disagree. Or,
Yeah.
I totally agree on that.
You see things different ways, and yeah.
Yeah.
And so what took that leap, though, from conversations, off the mat to I need to record them. I need to put them into one place, put it out on the internet for other people to listen to. What was the drive to grab an audience and and start recording these.
To be honest with you, one of my buddies said, "Hey man, we should do a podcast." And back then it was still early enough to say, "Well, gosh, what is a podcast?" And I kind of looked it up, and Joe Benson and I were going to do it, and we did a couple of them, and we had a lot of good, fun conversations where you have to make 3 or 4 people sit down and have a conversation and entertain themselves among knowing that they're entertaining others as well. It got to be really fun. It was literally just the spark of a guy saying, "Hey, we should do a podcast," and I bought mics the next day. So,
Perfect. So, the name Fight Horizon.
mm-hmm.
What does it mean to you, and where did it come from?
Man, I hired the right guy for the job here. These are great questions. I like it. It came from literally a band that I was listening to at the time, and kind of an idea that I constructed in my head. Basically, if you're taking ideas or opinions or statements or conversations from somebody that you've met, that you look up to at the mat or look up to in life, or even just new people that you want to get to know more, then it's almost talking about kind of the future, right? It's planning to grow your mind and stretch your mind. So every conversation I have, every podcast I have, I look to try to stretch my mind and try to better myself inside. And same for the person coming out of it, right? So it's a good thing for everyone else. And how do we all get together is, jiu-jitsu, right? A combat sport, a fight sport, So Fight Horizon kind of came through by the idea of always trying to get better every day. So, and that's what I try to describe. I mean, a lot of the Instagram followers, a lot of the Facebook followers, will see all the motivational quotes or anything like that. It's based on the idea of trying to get better every day.
That was going to be the follow-up question. Like you're attacking this coming from somebody who's now in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming from this in a good way, having a podcast and having a strong social media presence. But a lot of your social media is inspirational quotes. Like why did you pick that route to, and why'd you pick them, and where do you get all of them? Because you're posting like a million of them.
You have a very complex system of getting those quotes or acquiring them or coming up with them. A lot of them I've made myself, but if I told you where I got them, I'd have to kill you. But it's basically, I'm going to quote kind of another podcast, maybe 1 or 2 episodes ago, where I'm in for the ripple, not the splash. I'm here to, well, let me rewind here. I have a mentality of, if I'm not trying to make this world a better place, then what kind of man am I? And my way of trying to make this world a better place is trying to motivate others. That's what comes to be, when you progress up to being a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, when you start teaching classes, that's what you want to do. You want to motivate, you want to educate, right? And that's how you change the world. This is another way of changing the world, by trying to find something that hits somebody just in that right way. They go, man, I should do this one thing today. Maybe that one thing's going to change the rest of their life. Maybe that one thing's going to be that thing that they said 5 years ago. Thank God I did that, because I don't know where I would be without it right now.
Where's your motivation come from? Where you're trying to motivate so many people. Where does yours come from to keep rolling every day, to keep moving up?
Well, there's obviously goals. There's goals I want to shoot for. There's goals I want to obtain in my life. A lot of the things that I ran into that motivate me don't cost anything. They don't have a price on it. There's not a sticker or a discount that I can buy on these things. One of the things I ran into that I found priceless, interviewing one of my friends I met in Milwaukee, Milwaukee's neutral ground, gave me a very, very good compliment at the end of a podcast. And that was very inspirational to me. And not to boast or anything like that, but one of his comments was, "I'm glad that your voice is out there," and that was awesome to me. That was awesome to hear. That was awesome to feel. You know, it wasn't just a confidence booster. It wasn't just, you know, it is a little bit of an ego booster, but to know that your words or your actions are out there and they're creating differences in people's lives, and maybe they're even just a little bit of encouragement. Listening to 10 minutes of a podcast and pulling from it what you need and then making your day better. Awesome. You know, that's all you can ask for.
So, I know this one takes off a little off topic a bit, but who do you look up to in life? Both, actually, I want to make that a two-part question. Who do you look up to in life, and who do you look up to in jiu-jitsu? And I know you know where that question comes from, but I won't go into the backstory of that.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, it's one and the same. It's one and the same question for me. I mean, my life is based off of jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is based off of my life, right? So if I don't plan correctly for the day and I don't make it to class, my day is ruined. That starts right when I wake up, you know, right when I pack a bag for the practice I'm having tonight. You know, and you progress into that. Whoever I look up to in jiu-jitsu is who I look up to in life, right? So basically all of, you know, I want to say, I almost said it. I want to say all of my higher ranks. Yes, it's true. All of my lower ranks too. You know, everyone I meet in jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter what color your belt is. Everyone's got something to share in jiu-jitsu. That's why they call it a martial art, right? It's an art. A piece of you comes out. And there's pieces of people I've seen that are just, they impress me. You know, it's downright amazing to see differences and good sides of people. Obviously, the first person that got me started was, you know, Matt Fujinaka. He is somebody I've always looked up to because he's got a crazy black magic way of thinking about jiu-jitsu, and it's great. But, you know, he's been there throughout the whole thing. Perry Worth has been there throughout the whole thing. John Friedland's been there throughout the whole thing. Now, those are all my higher ranks, but like I said, you know, I look up to a lot of different white belts. I look up to a lot of different blue belts. You know, the day you start frustrating me in class going, God, you try to splice her, really? It's great, man, great, because that's the accumulation of you learning from everyone else, right? And you're compounding your education to get better. So you compound it in a different way because you're a different person, right? That makes me look up to you, you know? The idea of never being the best or completely mastering jiu-jitsu is something that doesn't just echo throughout jiu-jitsu, it echoes throughout the whole place, you know, the whole life. So
Hold on one sec. Real quick, hurry.
intermission for everyone else in Fight Horizon Nation. We have a co-producer and producer conversation going on right now.
Sorry.
No, I understand. Producing's pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, normally I've filmed probably 4, 5, 6 of your podcasts. So normally I'm standing back there and can tell him to come over by me and ask his question and then get around.
Yeah.
But
you're good though.
So, you know, what I liked about what the backstory is a couple of podcasts ago we had Evan on, and he asked the question of like, who do you look up to in like the jiu-jitsu world / MMA world? Like, who do you take stuff from? And you're like, I don't.
Yeah.
But then at the same time you do. Like, it's more what I like is if you see something you like, you're gonna try it.
Right.
If it works for you, it works for you. And I liked the analogy you gave is like, you really liked soccer. You liked playing it. You like watching it to a point, but you can't sit down and watch like an entire game.
Right.
You want to see the highlights.
Right.
And I like that thinking about it that way is like, I like the highlights of jiu-jitsu where if I see something, a good move from somebody, how do I figure out how to do it myself? Will it work in my game? And can I actually pull it off? And so I liked when you kind of brought that up and using different people. Is there anybody else? Is there big name people that you've maybe pulled stuff from, maybe not on the personal level, but is there somebody out there, or this, these three guys, I've pulled things from a lot from them. Is there anybody like that out there for you?
You're gonna laugh because a lot of people that know me personally and know my jiu-jitsu game, it's a little bit more like an inverted style, but I tend to lean towards some of the older jiu-jitsu practitioners. Hickson Gracie, went to a seminar with him. The simplicity of jiu-jitsu and how he breaks it down is crazy. That's what I really like of his. And basically make things too complicated for him. I'm not gonna remember it. If I don't remember it, I'm never gonna do it. If I never do it, then it's never gonna work, right? Not for my game. But yeah, Hickson Gracie was one. Henner a little bit. That was great. Henner, I actually went to Henner Gracie. Went to a seminar up in Woodbury, and he taught me a lot about side control, which was great. So I would say Hickson and Henner for sure, which both have a little bit of an older style. It's not really that mainstream sport, tornado guard, jiu-jitsu that you see right now. It's all just about trying to build off the simple idea of it was side control for Henner. It was just the idea, the invisible jiu-jitsu with Hickson. So it was, I would say, more the older style, really.
So neither one of them were pulling donkey guard?
No, oh God, no. I don't know if you can mention it in front of them, but yeah.
They might kill you. Perry might even kill me.
Yeah,
By the way, we got to get as many Perrys in today too as possible.
Yeah.
So I know, like, you have a lot of people from the area who are doing jiu-jitsu in on your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What is your hope? Bringing in other gyms here to Neutral Ground to talk about their gym.
Oh God, I hope a lot. I mean, that would be amazing. That there's nothing that's saying there's no rules in this game. There's no rules in this podcast game. There's no rules like don't learn or don't bring another view of jiu-jitsu into your podcast. That's just dumb. You don't get better at jiu-jitsu. You don't get better at conversating. You don't get better at learning about yourself or other people by putting in rules. Oh, it's just about Neutral Ground. No. I think we had Zach Otto on. He's from Pura Vida. A great gym there too. Great guy too. To be honest with you, you learn. I knew him before, but you learned a little bit more about somebody when you podcast with them. I did a little bit of research on him beforehand. You end up. I think you walk out better people, both parties, in the end, and it's better for everyone. I would say, so.
And along with MMA/jiu-jitsu, what are some of the other topics you like talking about here on the podcast?
Gosh, anything. Really cool things. I had Daryl Halseth on 15, I think episode 15.
That's about right.
We talked a lot about nothing about jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of the time dedicated to something that didn't correlate with jiu-jitsu, but how did I meet Daryl? I met him through Neutral Ground. I met him through jiu-jitsu. His kid does jiu-jitsu, and I learned a lot about mushrooms, a lot about the outdoors, and a lot about survival techniques. Actually, to be honest with you, true. So it's very cool. There's no boundaries. There's no we have to learn about this. Jiu-jitsu connects us all, and I'm ready to expand off of that. To try to put my mind in a different place than what it was yesterday. So I'm ready to learn about anything with somebody.
I was going to say, I know, especially with the early podcasts, there's one topic that came up a lot, which was UFOs and Bigfoot.
So if you know me personally, again, huge conspiracy theorist, right? So you start off with something you're passionate about, and things that would keep me up at night would be like researching these dumb UFO videos or Bigfoot theories and things like that. I mean, it adds mystery to the world. I mean, how can you not like that, right?
So like you look at this podcast as it has its base and its roots
Yeah.
in jiu-jitsu, just kind of like the sport itself. It has its base and its roots, but
Yeah.
it can grow.
It was branched off, is grown, is only going to get bigger and better. I can't wait to 50 episodes. That's one goal I have. I can't wait to 25 episodes, to be honest with you. I get excited when I get to schedule a whole month of podcasts. So,
And what kind of going off that vein, what is your hope? Where what's the goal, and where do you hope Fight Horizon ends up?
What I really want to do, and talking way down the line, I want to get my own studio. I want to schedule my own guests. I want to be able to have my Ripple progress further than it ever has. You know what I mean? To have this thing become my passion, to become almost a career or a drive in my life, even further than what it is now, is great. That's what I'm really looking for. Meeting new people, traveling, doing traveling podcasts, being able to do solo podcasts as well. But yeah, I got a lot of goals out there. The bigger one, more recently, is try to get my own studio. Yeah.
So what? Shoot, I lost my last question here because I don't have it written down.
That's all right.
What surprised you about doing this? Is there anything that maybe is? It could be a bad surprise or a good surprise, but hopefully good surprise.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of bad surprises out there, right? That's just what a bump is, right? That's the bump in the road that you got to get over. The good surprise is they caught like wildfire for me. I never thought I would be going on 15 episodes, let alone going on 18 right now, let alone wanting to do 25 and having a goal of 50. I never thought I would be trying to progress myself outside of the podcast to be able to communicate with somebody better, or focusing on, language or linguistic patterns or anything like that, so I can facilitate a conversation better. Never thought I would start trying to do that. I thought it was just going to be a bunch of locker room talk. It would get old, and then it would probably stop after a while. A year later, I'm still doing it. New equipment, new goals, new way to organize my information, new way to talk, new way to speak. I never thought it was going to be this good, and then want to turn into a career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Well, what questions do you have for me on this end?
What are your hopes for Fight Horizon podcast? What are you looking forward to in the future?
Well, I mean, the number one thing I think I see with Fight Horizon is just getting the quality up.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, because you're already targeting, you know the people, know your topic, like you're doing that so well. And the first couple episodes, especially when I started listening to it, I'm like, this is genius. And the reason that I brought up the question about like why have other people on from other gyms is because if you looked at it from any other industry, you'd be like, almost why would you bring your competitor on? And that's I and now being here, like I totally get why it's not really a competitor in jiu-jitsu.
No.
Like gyms
No.
aren't competing really against each other on the mat, sure, at like a competition, but you're gonna go out and have beers with them, or
Right.
you're gonna go
Right.
learn something from them. It's not a big deal if you walked into somebody else's gym and rolled with them on one night. It's not a big deal. Everybody can kind of do that.
Right.
And so I get that now. But I was kind of like, I was surprised. Like, that's kind of, I was like, honestly, I thought that was kind of ballsy that, you'd have somebody on from, who owns another gym or is representing another gym. But it also makes sense.
Yeah. And the more you get submersed into the idea of jiu-jitsu, it's never about that. When you roll with somebody new and you get tapped out and you have no idea why, that almost should excite you. You know what I mean? There's another branch I didn't even know was on the tree of jiu-jitsu, right? How can I use that? And how can I stop that, I guess, is the first question you ask. And the next one is, how do I use that towards my game? You know what I mean? Having other people on with other topics and other, I almost want to call it worlds, because people create their own worlds, right? Having other people on is only going to stretch my mind more, but everyone else that's listening too. I didn't know half the stuff about mushrooms when Daryl came on. You know, that's great. I'm a better person for it now.
And we're talking about like edible mushrooms, not the drug.
Yeah, we
mushroom.
clarified that beforehand.
Yeah.
Not those, but yeah. So it was good. No, now I drink chaga every day, or not every day, but pretty frequently.
Yeah,
you know,
chago's. I don't think I could. Maybe I'll try it someday. But
I just made a batch yesterday, man. I'll bring some in for you. It's good. It's good. It's good.
I'm leery of it.
Put a little cinnamon in there. Boom, great tea.
Maybe I'm just not a big tea guy, like in general.
Yeah.
Although Mountain Dew was my energy drink forever and ever and ever.
Mountain Dew's your energy drink?
Oh, it was.
Oh my god,
so
that's
was.
low key, bro.
I know, but that was the thing. Is like I didn't want to like explode everything in my body with energy drinks. So I was like Mountain Dew, and I stopped it.
My dad drinks Mountain Dew all the time now, and he drives a lot. I mean, he has family in Minnesota and in Wisconsin at the time. He was driving back and forth 6 hours. He would have Mountain Dew and sunflower seeds. That was just a way to stay awake during the drive.
See, and that was when I was in TV. I was working third shift when I came down here to Milwaukee.
Yikes!
And it was like pounding 2 Mountain Dews every day because it was tough. Like third shift is awful, and I know we've got a couple guys here that work third shift, and I feel nothing but empathy for them when it's like I don't think I could even be here.
So it's good.
So,
well, you have any more questions for me?
That was all my questions. We're coming up on 40 minutes too, so
perfect. It'll be the shortest. Well,
I don't know about the shortest.
I don't know about the shortest. I don't think so. I think back in the day when we used to have those just USB plug-in mics, there was one for about a half hour.
Well, and actually, sorry, I want to go back to what you were. One question you said. I've got my assistant cameraman over there.
Just adjusting the stand.
Yeah, he's pretty good at it.
Good.
But you were asking what my hopes for this. I've looked at kind of what you're doing. My background is in television production, and just be like the little things I can help you with to try to make this podcast better, bring the quality up, and because like I said, your content is already there, and it's just bring the technology side up. And I've been glad that and willing, like, 'cause right now I'm watching the monitor down here for the camera, and to get you, get you up on YouTube and get you up doing multiple things and getting your reach bigger.
Yeah.
Because I think the more stuff you do that way is, you're just gonna get a bigger audience, and I want to see this grow. I mean, I see the little embers of this fire is starting to build, and it's awesome.
Yeah. So no, that's great, man. I mean, like I said, I would have never met you if you didn't start doing jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
Or your story is even great too. We should even cover on a different podcast. But the connection of the small townness of jiu-jitsu is great, and I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you doing all this with us.
No problem.
And,
Thanks for letting me do this.
Sorry, Dad.
It's okay, Christian. But I do know that we should probably wrap this up because somebody wants to wrestle with you.
Okay, that is perfectly okay. And if anything about Fight Horizon, we're all about the family. So, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much. For everyone that's listening or watching, like us on Facebook, share us on Facebook, like us on Instagram. We're on Twitter now. Obviously, you can reach this podcast anywhere that you can actually get podcasts. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere. So email us if you have any questions, interesting topics, anything like that. Fight Horizon with an S at gmail.com. Fight Horizon, the regular one was already taken. So, all right, thanks guys. I appreciate it, and thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Dan.
And my co-producer, Christian, as well. Thank you, sir. Thanks, guys.
Christian.